Well, it's spring training time, and it brings a lot of hope, but it also brings a lot of concerns. So John and I are going to share some of our hopes and some of our concerns for the Angels in 2023. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Every show is free and available on all platforms, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. The best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
Happy Thursday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. Say it with us now. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're very excited as we creep closer to the start of the Major League Baseball season 2023. It can't come soon enough. I know we got WBC going on. I know that spring training is exciting out in the desert, but man, I just want to get to some actual baseball, Mike.
Games
I'm excited.
That matter. We want games that matter. And I also, just on a side note, John, it's so much fun. Whether Team USA wins or not, it's so much fun to watch Mike Trout come through clutch.
Oh, yeah.
And get excited. And that's why I can't wait for the regular season, because I think something's going to happen this year. Trout is going to be the MVP. I'm going to put that out there right now.
Oh, girl. You went there. Hey, so we're going to talk about things that give us hope and things that are cause for concern regarding the Halos, our hopes and dreams. Not my personal diary hopes and dreams. Mike, I know the ones that you write on your bed, with your legs crossed behind you as you're at night. Not those hopes and dreams.
With my soft music playing.
That's right. We're talking about the Angels' hopes and dreams, and we want to get into the idea of spring training. We had a great question, and I believe it was from it was from Torrid. It was a voicemail, and he said, how often does spring success translate to the regular season? So we're going to dive into those numbers. Why don't you give us some stats, Mike?
All right, so this is according to FanGraphs. The 5 teams with the best winning percentage in Major League Baseball since 2015 are as follows. So here's number 5. The Cardinals, they have a winning percentage of .555. Number 4 is the Guardians. I was actually really surprised at that. .560. Yankees are number 3 with a .577 winning percentage. The Astros are .595. They're number 2. And then number 1, Johnny, is the Dodgers with a .623 winning percentage. By the way, the Angels are 18th on that list with a .475 winning percentage.
You know what? It fascinates me about the fact that the Astros and the Dodgers are 1 and 2 is the fact that they have incredible farm systems. And you see a ton of the guys from each team's farm system getting lots of reps in spring training. So it makes sense that those 2 teams have the highest winning percentages. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so here's what's interesting. Each of these teams since 2015 didn't always have a great spring. In fact, according to FanGraphs, only 21% of the teams that have a winning percentage in spring training that's 500 or better actually have won during the regular season, meaning that almost 80% of the teams that have this fantastic spring training and a winning percentage of 500 or better are actually not winning in the regular season, John.
Oh, so I was wrong about those stats earlier. Okay, good. Yeah, off to a great start. What's fun, even more interesting, Mike, the Pythagorean winning percentage. It's a formula that tries to predict the basic winning percentage and a team's future performance. That's only been accurate 24% of the time when using a team's record from spring that's finished 500 or better.
Yes. Yeah. So really, bottom line is that 21% of teams that finished spring training at 500 or better finished 500 or better in the regular season since 2015. And so spring training is great.
Yeah.
And when you win in spring training, it can be a morale booster.
Sure.
It can get you excited, but it does not guarantee that you will be a successful team in the regular season. And I think there's a few reasons for that, John. I think one of the reasons is that a lot of the victories are won after the fourth, fifth inning,
Right.
at least at the beginning of spring training. And so guys like Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon are not winning the game for you. Guys like Jordan Adams and Trey Cabbage are winning the game for you, right? Guys on the mound are not like Patrick Sandoval and Reed Detmers. It's guys with numbers like 99 and 84, right? Those guys that you know are going to get sent back down. We got high hopes for them, but they're going to get sent back down, which makes sense, although it's still fun to win during spring training.
Well, the Angels are a good example of that because they've had a couple of successful spring trainings in a row now, and it hasn't translated to the regular season.
You always got to bring up the past, John. Let's go, all right?
Put it in your journal. Write it down in your diary.
Okay, I'll do that while you talk.
Do it tonight. Listen, it goes back to our conversation about how to watch spring training, and that includes the idea that you're watching to see guys like Jared Walsh, who was hurt last year. You want to see how he's performing this year in spring training. And, he had an RBI the other day, had a home run yesterday or 2 days ago, actually. And it's just great to see that kind of stuff. Those are the things you want to look out for. Everybody's watching, how Tucker Davidson is doing as a starter, because we want to know how that might impact this year's season. And so that's really why when people say, like, don't take wins and losses in spring training into account. Number one, it's backed up by the numbers you shared. Number two, spring training is exactly that, practice. It's just training. It's the fact that they're all getting ready for the season. They're working on things. I know there was some concern about Carlos Estevez and his ability to be a closer. And the truth is Phil Nevin came out later and said, well, he's actually working on his fastball up because we have data that shows and indicates that he gets a lot of swings and misses up there, and and not good contact up there. So this is the time where you work that stuff out. And honestly, it's a lot of fun to watch because it gives you hope for the season. It helps set the tone for the fact that guys, like I mentioned, Jared Walsh, C-Rod, we haven't been able to see him yet, but he's the kind of guy you would want to see in spring just to see how he's doing. Griffin Canning's another great example. Didn't pitch all of last year and a lot of 2021. He pitched about half a season in 2021, and he's looked great. He's looked great. Reed Detmers' velocity is up, and so is his slider velocity. So those are the things that you look out for in spring training. So while the success doesn't necessarily translate, the nuances of baseball, the nuances of this guy's hurt and that guy's hurt, all of that stuff translates to the season. So not necessarily wins and losses, but how's this guy recovering from injury? How's this guy pitching on the mound? Things
personal
like
successes, maybe right?
Yeah.
I think with Tucker Davidson, that's a great example because he's somebody that looks really strong so far. And something that I talked about a few weeks ago when you were gone was the things that I look for at spring training. And one of the things that is really important is those innings with Tucker Davidson specifically, because he's pitching against their best lineup as he's pitching in the first few innings. And then after that is kind of a free for all and people are working on stuff. And so it's really important to pay attention to what Reed does in the first two innings, really in the first inning and a half, kind of. And same thing with Patrick Sandoval when Shohei was pitching, things like that. So wins and losses are great, and you want to have a successful spring training, but the better success is what you just talked about, the nuances. Am I throwing this harder? That's why when you see Jeff Fletcher, Sam Blum, Rhett Bollinger, Sarah Valenzuela tweet out like, oh, wow, Reed's fastball was at 96, 97. It's because those are the things that you want to pay attention to. Those are the things that are important. And as Angel fans, we know that success in the spring never translates into the regular season. And so whether we win really a whole lot or we don't, we want to have some momentum going in. Right now we're over 500, so I don't know what that means, but but I'm excited we're over 500, and I hope that it does translate to a successful season.
You know what doesn't translate is so-and-so is in the best shape of his life coming into spring training. Never translates.
Yes.
Hey, coming up on Locked On Angels, do our concerns for 2023 match your concerns? We're going to share our concerns about the Halos in 2023. We'll compare notes. Mike will get out his diary, and we'll share those with you coming up.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The push for the NBA playoffs season is here, and Now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores to threes made. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss your chance at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go and download FanDuel Sportsbook app. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. You can go to FanDuel.com/locked on to learn more, and you can make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. And as we continue our conversation about our hopes and dreams and concerns for the Halos in 2023, we want to share where we are hopeful. What are we hopeful for this season? What gives us hope? What is cranking the hopium into our lungs, Michael? Let's talk about it.
The hopium, the Logan hopium.
Yeah, there you go.
John, I think the first thing that I'm really excited about and has caused hope in my heart to rise is the depth on this team.
Yeah,
it gives
most
me
important
really
thing.
Right. It gives me a real great confidence that we're not going to be somebody that gets sunk by injuries like we were last year. I mean, when Rendon goes down, Drury can play third base, right?
Yes. I just wanted to make the point because I had a little bit of fun with on Twitter yesterday, calling out people who don't know anything about the Angels, speaking as if they do know the Angels.
That was fun.
That thread is going to stick at the top of Twitter on Super Halo Bros, by the way. I'm always meaner on Super Halo Bros.
That's true. That's true.
But I make sure nobody knows it's you. It's just me. But
yes.
The people who say, how do they have Trout and Ohtani and they can't get to the playoffs? Have you watched the Angels? No, clearly not, because we don't go from Anthony Rendon to Jonathan Villar at third base this season, and that's been the issue the last few years. So I understand the notion of how are they not able to get to the playoffs with those two guys? Well, give me a reason. Give me an answer, because you obviously don't know it. We know it, and that's the lack of depth. That's the injuries that have sunk us, and that's not going to happen this year. I just wanted to point that out. So
that's a great point. And I think continuing with the point I was making, like Walsh goes down and Urshela can play first base. Drury can play first base. Here's what I really like about this team. And I know that there's some debate on Brett Phillips and the fourth outfielder position, things like that. But Mickey Moniak has had a really great spring.
Sure.
And he is minor league depth for this outfield. And not only is Mickey Moniak minor league depth, but Joe Adell is as well. And Joe Adell can actually grow in the minor leagues and work on his defense and work on his offense and be a consistent hitter because he still is very young. And we've just not had that option in the last few years. We've had to rely on these guys to come up and perform and to play. And I remember in 2020 when Adell was playing, it just looked like he was completely lost.
Yeah.
But he's a young guy trying to figure some things out, right? And now that we have a lot of really good coaches in the majors and in the minor leagues, I think that Moniak and Adell are really going to benefit. I think Moniak has been an example of somebody who's starting to figure that out. But John, I'm really excited about the depth. And the best part about this is that if there is an injury, and we hope that there's not, we know that we have a major league ready player, somebody that they have given millions of dollars to step right in. It's not going to be somebody that they're trying to get off of the waiver wire. And I've talked about it ad nauseum, but I'm going to bring it up one more time. Juan Labarfus, man, when they brought him in, it was so frustrating, right? Because it was not a good move for our team, but we needed somebody because we just had nobody out there and we're playing infielders in the outfield. And we don't have to do that unless we want to this year. And that's the best part. Phil Nevin gets to do what he wants to do, not what is like an emergency decision for him this season.
The little known sequel that didn't do so well, Infielders in the Outfield, to Halos in the Outfield.
Bomb at the box office.
Yeah, that's right. It was a bomb last season. That's for sure. Hey, starting pitching looks fantastic. We've got incredible depth, probably for the first time since the last time the Angels went to the playoffs, which was 2014. Oh my gosh.
9 years ago. Good grief.
Listen to this rotation. Led off by Jared Weaver. Ding.
There's a reference.
CJ Wilson, Garrett Richards, Matt Shoemaker, your favorite pitcher, Hector Santiago, and Tyler Skaggs. 4 starters had double-digit wins that season.
Yeah.
5 starters had 20 starts or more in 2014. Skaggs was 22 years old, had 18 starts that year, and he was the 6th starter. Now, remember that there was his injury, and so Shoemaker kind of stepped in there literally saved the season because he came out of nowhere. He was an undrafted free agent, and the Angels happened to sign him. Weaver and Wilson, listen to this. Weaver had 34 starts. Wilson had 31 starts. Man, people complain about CJ Wilson, and I will die on this hill. I will take anybody giving us 31 starts in a season, and no matter how much they didn't live up to their contract, or however people like to put it about CJ Wilson. Like, I'll take 31 starts any day, especially the last few years of pitching we've had. So this rotation that we have now has the potential to be as good, if not better, than 2014. And here's a little bit of the reason why. Ohtani, with the new schedule and not pitching every sixth start, but every sixth day, he could get 30 plus starts. Really, I think the ceiling there is 31. Patrick Sandoval had 27 starts last year. He could get to 30 as well because of that new Shohei schedule, because Sandy, by all accounts, is going to be starter number 2. So you're giving more opportunity to guys who can handle the offenses of our rivals, the other teams. These guys can get it done.
Yeah. And here's the good news for Sandy is that when he leaves a game, he more than likely, because he's left like 8 starts last year with the lead, he more than likely will be able to hold those starts because we have an offense, first of all, that actually is really dangerous. And that's another reason why I'm hopeful. The 1 through 9 has potential to be very dangerous instead of the 1 through 3. And the stats that were ridiculous last year was the 4 through 9 for the Angels had the lowest OPS in all of baseball. So John, let me just do a comparative side by side for you using last year's stats. This is the opening day 4 through 9
Joe Madden's
for the Angels. You ready for this? Matt Duffy is batting cleanup. Joe Adell is 5. Walsh is 6. Stassi 7. Marsh is 8th. And Fletch is 9. Now, here's the potential 2023 opening day lineup 4 through 9. Rendon, Renfroe, Drury, Walsh, Ohtani, and Urshela. John, the combined OPS of those guys from 2022 for the whole season was 3.769. The combined 4 through 9 that I just shared with you for all of last season was 4.396. So that's 627 points more than our starting 4 through 9 last season.
That's right. Yeah. Because if you get rid of the decimal point there, you've got a 37 and a 43. So 627 points more. Good grief.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that that's an improvement, and I would say that that's a reason to be hopeful, right?
No, come on. That's not. What are the Angels didn't do anything this offseason?
Can we do a show where we just are the fans of other teams?
No, I know where you're going with this, and it's. I have a segment in my head, and it's called "You Don't Know Ball."
There you go.
So we'll do that
coming soon to a podcast near you.
let me give you one more reason why we are hopeful this season. GMPM has the power to make the right decisions for this team, and the evidence of that is the fact that in Artie Moreno's interview with Tom Verducci, he casually mentioned that he asked Perry about Trey Turner, and he was like, "Is that gonna be enough?" And Perry said, "No, dude, no. One guy is not going to be enough."
I hope that was the conversation. Nah, bro. No, dude.
just focus on the $4.50 beer, and I'll handle the baseball stuff.
Yes.
He said Trey Turner's not going to solve all these problems, and then Artie allowed Perry to go and get who the Angels needed to get. And so this team is Perry Minasian's team, probably the first GM who's ever had their team. Now, I will say that I think that Brad Ausmus was definitely a Billy Epler hire and decision, and somebody he wanted there. We all saw how that worked out.
Yeah.
But I will say that this team, the 1 through 9, the rotation, all of it, is a very Perry Minasian team. And he also shared that he has the ability to make the team better no matter what. The luxury tax, now, I'll believe that when I see it. But the fact that he said it, it gives me some hope. But he's said it before, so I don't really buy into that too much. I feel like the payroll is what it is, and it is higher than it's ever been, but it's not past the luxury tax threshold. Let's ignore that for now and just say that that's a good thing that we have the highest payroll we've ever had, and Perry Minasian got the the agency to create this team the way that he wanted to build it.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM game. Have you ever dreamed about becoming an MLB GM and managing your professional baseball franchise? Well, the Ultimate Pro GM baseball game will make all of your dreams come true. It's just for you. You can manage every strategic aspect of your team. You can play through the season and lead your team to victory. With the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM, you're responsible for hiring the right coaches and staff, managing the team finances, scouting and drafting players, managing difficult personalities, navigating your franchise through free agency, and all of the ups and downs of the season. All of this in a really challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline, which means that you can play it on the go. You can play when you want, play it without Wi-Fi. You can play where you want, and Locked On Angel listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when they use this promo code, Locked On, in the game store. That's all caps, Locked On. So make sure that you download the Ultimate Pro Baseball game, and you can visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com, the Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today.
Got to give them some time to scan that QR code over there. Am I doing this right? There it is. You got it. All right, Mike, we're continuing our conversation about our hopes and our concerns for 2023. Now, we have to talk about the hard stuff, the concerns when it comes to the Halos in 2023. Why don't you start us out?
Health, right?
You're saying help.
Yeah, help, because the health has been an issue, right? It's always about health. It's always the narrative, John.
What the health?
It's always, Mom's listening. It's always, if they stayed healthy, we would have ... Right?
Yes,
and
all the time.
I just want to remove that from every Angel fan's narrative this year, because I want to see this team stay healthy. Because the evidence is, if they stay healthy, they're actually going to win some games. So let me take you back to 2014, 9 years ago.
Why do you got to keep saying that?
Here's the major players, not all of them, but the major players on that team: Pujols, Kendrick, Ibar, Trout. They each played at least 156 games, John.
Dang.
They each were in there most of the time. And it's just evidence. It's one of the many reasons why, when the good players play every day, the Angels win. And so if we can get our players in there every single day, I think this season is going to be a really successful season. But I am concerned, always concerned, about health.
You know, you brought up 2014, and I think about David Freese and how we made the move for him before 2014.
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel like comparable to what we did this offseason in like Drury and Urshela and Renfroe? I know Renfroe's an outfielder, but
because I wasn't thrilled about Freese. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, we got David Freese. I just remember like, I guess he'll be great.
But it was like the right piece at the right time.
It was
right?
a perfect piece, right?
Yeah.
And he's a clutch guy, and he's been to the playoffs and all of that stuff. And he knew Albert, and so like that was a great move. And with Drury and Urshela, you're right. It feels similar to that. Stop getting my hopes up.
The one thing that concerns us is the consistency with this team. They can't have any losing streaks this season, at least not a 14-game losing streak, because those were the most depressing episodes of Locked On Angels we've ever done.
Yeah, go back and check those out. They were fun.
Oh my gosh. Somebody said, those guys laugh too much. They don't get mad enough. They just laughed through the losing streak. I'm like, yeah, because we got mad like in the first week. The second week, we lost our minds. We were like the Joker.
What else are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly. They need to bounce back quickly from bad performances. They can't let things rattle them. They can't let a 3-game sweep in a series get them down.
Yeah.
They're inevitable. They're going to happen. They happen to all the best teams, right? You're going to get swept at some point. And so it's very important for them to be able to bounce back from that stuff. The longest losing streak in 2014, we're going back to that again, 9 years ago. You're welcome. 4 games. The longest losing streak they ever had in 2014 was 4 games.
Yeah.
That happened twice, but it was 4 games, some wins, 4 games. The longest winning streak, 10 games in 2014. We got to have more of that in 2023.
The thing I'm concerned about, John, is team chemistry. Is this team going to play together and not against one another? They're going to play for the victory, for the championship, or are they going to play for individual stats? And the only reason why I bring this up, John, is because they've played for individual stats for the last few years, right? Like, because they've not really had a motivation to go and win because they've been eliminated pretty early. And so I think this year is an opportunity for them to play for something bigger than themselves. And what I love is something that Squid actually said, and I know that we've been hard on him and not sure where he kind of fits on this roster, but he actually was in an interview the other day, and here's what he said: "This team bangs." I love that. All the new guys they signed absolutely rake. Any way I can come in and be a part of that, even in a utility role, even off the bench, a speed role, come in and play defense on a Sunday. I don't care. I just want to be a part of it. That's what we need on this team this year. That's the chemistry we need. What do you need me to do? And I'm going to go out and I'm going to bust my butt and I'm going to do it.
I appreciate that from Squid, Andrew Velasquez, but you got to hit above 200, pal, if you want to be part of this train. If you want to ride this ride, you got to get over that Mendoza line.
Let's go.
All right, listen. You and I, I'm speaking very selfishly here.
Yeah.
But maybe on behalf of all Angel fans as well. We don't want to be let down again. Part of the reason why I made that Twitter thread I talked about earlier is because I want to keep the receipts. I'm keeping all the receipts of all the trash talk from before the season. I'm going to cash it in. It's going to be like Bed Bath & Beyond coupons, baby. They're going to be coming in the mail every single day, and I'm going to be spending them. I know they're going out of business, but that's probably has to do with the coupons. Anyway.
Wait, they are?
They're closing a lot of them down.
Breaking news.
I know. Mine's already gone in Pasadena.
That's a shame.
We don't want to be let down again. After 44 games last season, we were riding high, and then the losing streak happened. And let me tell you that I was part of Angels Twitter in 2021. I was really involved. And, 2021 was okay. We were coming out of the pandemic season. It was the first sort of full season. But then last year, during the 27 and 17 run, that was the most fun. Everybody was so pumped.
Yeah.
People who hadn't been following the Angels were like, oh, they're having a lot of fun out there. And man, it was just a good time to be on Angels Twitter. This season has got to stay competitive.
Yeah.
We have to be in it all season long. And it's going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult, but they cannot fall out of playoff contention. They have to be going after it the entire time. We have to have a season where we're in the race constantly. We have to be keeping up with the AL West. We have to be keeping up with the other wild card teams. We need the playoffs. We have to get to the playoffs. That has to be done this season. And there's no reason why they can't get there. They've ensured themselves with depth. They've ensured themselves with rotational depth as well. And they signed the pieces that they needed, not the ones that we all wanted, and the flashy free agents like the Trey Turners of the world. They got what they needed to address the issues that were very obvious and upfront last season. And we need a good run in the playoffs. We can't just get there. We have to go deep into the playoffs for this to be a successful season. I know winning the World Series is the goal, but the fact is, if they can get there after 9 years and do well in the playoffs, man, I feel pretty good about a team with Ohtani and Sandoval and Detmers and Anderson going into a championship series and pulling off some victories, especially with the big bats behind them in 2023. So those are our concerns. But again, selfishly, we don't want to be let down. We want to go far this season. So let's go.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. You can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every single day. They bring some great strategies for fantasy baseball. You can find their podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, and they are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for watching and listening wherever you are today to Locked On Angels. If you want to be part of the conversation, get at us at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. The best way you can help us out on YouTube, just comment below. It helps people see the video. It helps boost it up for other Angel fans. So if you feel like commenting, sharing your thoughts and concerns, we'd love to hear from you. Hey, Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
It's Fan Mail Friday. Got a lot of questions, a lot of really good questions. So we're going to have a really good conversation. So I want to invite you back to join us tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
It's going to be a good one. Some great questions from our Locked On Angels listeners and viewers. So please come back. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Angels, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.